Everybody, it's Jake Reid as usual, and I wanted to make a follow-up video to my first video that was about Madden 20, where it was things you can do to get ready for Madden 20 on Madden 19. That video had a lot of success, and a lot of you guys liked that, and you made it clear by liking the video, commenting, and just viewing the video in general. So I want to make a follow-up for you guys to kind of build on the first video. Now, if you're any type of Madden player, whether it be HUT, online, head-to-head, franchise mode, whatever it might be, I want you to still stick around for this video because it's going to be a lot of franchise-related stuff, but I'm going to explain to you how it's going to help you in general on Madden 9 or on Madden 20, and it'll help you in any game mode that you play. And just stick around and hear me out. I'm going to try and make it relatively quick just so I can give you guys these tips, and maybe it'll give you guys something to think about that'll allow you to practice, to get ready for Madden 20, to at least prepare yourself a little bit for the next game. And to start with, number one is try and start a franchise mode, or not necessarily, you don't even have to start a franchise mode, but starting a franchise mode is an easy way to do it. But another way to do it is to just pick a bad team on any other game mode that you're going to play. But generally what I'm getting at here is I'm saying when you start a franchise mode or play another mode with a bad team, you're going to start to prepare yourself for Madden 20 in a specific way. And what I'm talking about is in Madden 20, if you guys haven't heard, they widen the overall gap for the players. And so the majority of teams, you're going to see players in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, a really wide range of overalls. And you might have starters on teams that are in like the 60s and 70s, they said. And so what I'm getting at here is if you want to be prepared for that aspect of Madden 20, and the fact that not every team is going to be complete, and every team is going to have a wide range at different positions, my suggestion, number one, is to try and pick a team that has lower overalls. So go in and be like Dolphins or the Jets or a team like that. Here in Madden 19, like I said, you can do it in franchise mode, you can do it in head-to-head, you can do it in whatever. You can try and build a low overall team in HUT. Essentially what I'm trying to say is challenge yourself with lower overall players to get used to that, because no matter what team you're going to be here in Madden 20, you're going to end up with low overall players. You're not going to see teams like this anymore in Madden 20 in general. It's going to take a long time to build a team like this, and we don't even know if it's going to be possible to build a team like this. This is obviously my Steelers franchise. This is 13 weeks into the season, and I have a couple injuries, but I have mostly like high 80s at all the different positions. You look at my different receivers, quarterback, halfback, fullback, all the O-line, and then the defense as well. High overalls at every single position, and guys that are progressing at every single position. That's not going to be the same in Madden 20. In Madden 20, the teams, good teams even, are going to look more like a team like, I don't know how the Jets look in this franchise, but, oh no, they're pretty good actually. I forgot that they got Le'Veon Bell. I don't know what I'm saying off the top of my head. The Dolphins, for example. So you're going to have your stars on each team, and some stars on teams might only be in like the high 80s, but in general, you're going to have a lot of like 70s and even some 60 overall players starting. And so I'm trying to tell you guys essentially just to challenge yourself. And this bleeds into tip number two, is if you want to prepare yourself for that aspect of Madden 20, the overall difference, is try and challenge yourself with especially a lower overall quarterback and potentially even a lower overall running back. And the reason I'm getting at that is, the overall range is going to be a lot wider. You're not always going to have that high overall player that's going to be that great. So you want to get used to, having to manage with players that are lower overalls. And the best way to do that, kind of connecting back to point number one, is to pick somebody at a low overall at a crucial position. And that would be the quarterback or the halfback spot. And so, like, if I'm the Dolphins, for example, or maybe if I'm even going in and I'm being like my Steelers team, don't play with Ben Roethlisberger. Challenge yourself to play with a Mason Rudolph or a Josh Dobbs. Or if you're a team that has good quarterbacks, challenge yourself to go out to free agency and pick up one of these really low overall quarterbacks and try and focus on what you can do with somebody that's a low overall, like, a 67 or like a 68 Jared Stidham or Trayvon Boykin. But I think you guys get the point. The point is that those could potentially be starters in Madden 20, those overalls anyway. So in order to get prepared for that, tip number 1 and tip number 2, you want to try and start playing around that. You want to start trying to play with lower overalls, and you want to try and start getting used to it, and you want to try and utilize those low overall players at key positions. Now, I actually do that sometimes. In this franchise, I specifically have a good quarterback, but in general, I like to start my real low overall quarterbacks just because then I can get a good discount on them and afford to invest in other positions. And so I kind of already do that. I'm not doing that in this franchise specifically, but I just wanted to let you guys know that that's a good way to play the game anyway, because if you can get good with a low overall player at a specific position that is highly paid, like the quarterback position, then in terms of like franchise mode or even in HUT, the same principle applies. You can invest more heavily in other positions. Like in my HUT, I have like a budget Michael Vick that's only like a mid 80 overall. I don't personally need the 90 something overall Michael Vick. I don't need to invest all that money in that great of a quarterback because I'm good. I'm really good with the 80 something overall. So then that allows me to invest my coins or all my currency into other positions. And so same thing applies for franchise mode, obviously. If I'm rolling with Mason Rudolph, then I don't have that $30 million contract from Ben Roethlisberger on the books, and I can roll that over to other positions. And this actually bleeds into my third point, which is to try to focus on building a team that will play to the Madden 20 mechanics. Now, you're going to want to watch the first video to kind of get a feel for this, or watch some other videos on YouTube about what some of the mechanics are for Madden 20. But just to generally sum up some of them for you guys, it's going to be highly focused on the short to medium range passing game. The deep passing game is going to be somewhat obsolete because you're not going to be able to get the ball. You're not going to have that much passing time. And the running game is going to be emphasized. And then as well, defensively, they took away, they nerfed, I should say, the user linebacker, so it's not going to be powerful anymore. It's, it's going to be a lot more highly limited, and, user linebackers aren't going to be picking off every single ball that comes their way because there's new passing arcs and all these different things. So those are some things that you want to focus on. And so what I'm trying to get at here is, in HUT or in franchise mode, focus on building a team that will play to those mechanics. So, for example, if you want to get prepared for Madden 20, what I'm saying is, pick a team that doesn't have a good offensive line. So we can go in here and find a team that doesn't have a good offensive line. Off the top of my head, I want to say like the Texans don't have a good offensive line. Yeah, so like the Texans don't have a very good offensive line. What I'm trying to get at here is I'm telling you guys, focus on figuring out which stats matter for like offensive linemen, for example. And then focus on how you can trade or draft or acquire players that will buy you more time in the pocket. Because, like I said, they increase the pass rush so much in Madden 20 that you're only going to have 3 seconds to throw. Now, the way to counter that is to obviously build a really good offensive line, and that will buy you a little bit more time. That's just the way that football works. And so if you want to get prepared for Madden 20, get used to strategizing that way, and get used to strategizing against the meta. So if the meta is that pass rush is overpowered, then get used to building a team that has a good offensive line. If the run game is going to be powerful in Madden 20, and you want to have a good pass rush, then get used to defensively having a good front seven that can rush the passer and stop the run. And likewise, if you know that the meta is going to be short to medium range passing, focus on building a team that has positions that can defend that. So focus on the slot corner and figuring out what matters with the slot cornerback position. And I have a lot of other videos on my channel talking about what stats matter at each position. Please go back and watch those, because I guarantee you a lot of those stats are going to be exactly the same in Madden 20. Now, the game's going to play differently, but like In terms of like a cornerback, you want a certain speed threshold still, because you're going to want to match up with receivers, and you're going to want certain skills to match up at certain positions. And so likewise, if you're trying to stop the short to medium range passing game, the focus is going to be really important on slot corners and on the linebackers being able to cover on their own, because you're going to be utilizing other positions this year. You're not just going to be using the linebackers, so you're going to have to build a good middle linebacker like I have with the Steelers. So here I've built Devin Bush up to be a really good middle linebacker, really good speed, and I can let him do his own thing because he's got 89 zone coverage and 80 man coverage at this point. I can let him do his own thing. I don't have to user him. That's what you want to get used to on Madden 19, so that on Madden 20, you don't have to focus on, transitioning to something else. You know that this is how I get a good middle linebacker that can do his job on his own. It's not going to be exactly the same, but you at least have a general idea of the sense that, okay, if I want to stop that short to medium range passing game, I'm going to get a linebacker that has good speed and good coverage ability, but also has some good tackling ability and good block shed to kind of cover the middle. And let him do that on his own, and then you can focus on the other stuff. And that's the point. I could go on and on about this, about every single position, but think about it yourself. How can you counter what those metas are going to be? How can you counter the short to medium range passing game? How can you counter the run game that's going to be powerful? And then also, how can you counter a good pass rush? And then defensively speaking, how can you counter people that are really good at, using a defensive lineman or something like that? And that's the same thing. It's building your offensive line to be good and focusing on what those stats are that matter for offensive line. And I have a really good video up on that. I have good videos up on the other things. I detail out what exactly matters for every single offensive line position and why. And I guarantee you it's going to be relatively similar in Madden 20, because they didn't change the way that offensive linemen work. The mechanics might be a little bit different, the player motion might be a little bit different, but in general, you want guys that are strong and can block. I mean, that's what offensive linemen do. And the guards, you want to be guys that are a little bit more agile so they can get out and pull. So, generally speaking, get familiar with those things, because that'll help you build a team and get used to countering what it will be effective in Madden 20. And then the next one is, this one can apply for any type of game mode except for HUT, actually, is you can try to adjust the sliders to kind of get yourself used to playing against what might be like meta like on Madden 20. And so if I go here to my gameplay sliders, we know that in Madden 19, the pass blocking time, the time to sack is about 5 seconds. So you can tinker with the player skill pass blocking meter and turn it down. So as you can see, I would assume that since it's 50, that's 5 seconds. And then maybe if you turn it down to 30, that will be roughly 3 seconds. And you're not going to have a great time of doing it, but it's going to help you be ready for what is coming at you on Madden 20, because on Madden 20, there ain't going to be no, you're not going to have time to throw. There's not going to be, an adjustment for you. You're going to be jumping right in, and you're going to have to deal with this, and you're going to be, a lot of people that aren't practicing and aren't getting ready for these things, they're going to be pissed off because they're getting sacked constantly, and they're going to complain that they don't have time to throw the ball. But you, because you went in and you turned down your pass block slider and you got used to the fast pass rush, you're going to be ready. You're going to have the offense prepared to throw short passes, throw medium range passes, get the ball out of your hand quick and run the ball. And you're going to move your offense, and they're not, because they're going to be getting sacked constantly because they're going to be holding onto the ball entirely too long. So go into your franchise mode or go into your regular options menu at the main menu and turn down the slider for pass blocking, and you can tinker with it a little bit until you get to a point where it's like exactly 3 seconds or whatever. But or I think it's like 3.5. It might be closer to 4. It's somewhere in that 3 to 4 second range, but tinker with it a little bit, tinker with the sliders, and you can do this with other positions as well to try and get used to Madden 20, meta ideas like that. But in general, the example that I'm going with is pass blocking. We know on Madden 20 that the pass rush is going to be emphasized. We know that you're going to have roughly 3 seconds to get the ball out of your hand. So what do? Go into the sliders menu, turn down the user pass block skill, and you're going to have trouble at first, but get used to getting that ball out of your hand, and eventually you're going to develop a play style that's going to get the ball out of your hand. You're going to know what type of plays work, what type of passing routes work, and you're going to be prepared at least somewhat for Madden 20. You're going to be further ahead than a lot of other people. So that's tip number 4. And then what was tip number 5? Tip number 5. This one's a little bit interesting, and really, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I want to go here into practice mode real quick and kind of show you guys. Actually, I might not be able to. I don't know if did I play already? Yeah, I played already. So I'm not gonna be able to go. I might be able to go into training. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to free practice. I don't know that I necessarily have to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and do a little bit of run style type of stuff. And I want to show you guys, I'm going to try to show you guys what I'm talking about with this last tip. This last tip is that, like I said, you're going to want to focus on running the ball in Madden 20 and getting good at it. So it helps to practice it on Madden 19. It's not going to be exactly the same, but it helps to practice it and get good at, knowing what run plays work against what type of defenses and all that. I said that in the last video and we covered all that. But to build on that, what I'm saying is you want to realize that in Madden 20, the run physics are different. They're fixed. And what I mean by that is the player motion is a lot different, but a lot better. And the players are going to run different. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. But in addition to that, I want you guys to realize that you're not going to necessarily fall over your linemen the same way that you do in this game. They fix that. And so in this game, you'll find it frustrating to run the ball. If you run into your guy, it's going to, pile you up. It's not going to all the time be a very good animation. And in here, you're going to get locked onto blocks a lot. I'm not saying that that's going to be completely removed from Madden 20, but what I am saying is that the player motion is fixed quite a bit. And so realize that when you're running the ball here on Madden 19 and you are prepping for Madden 20, realize that you might be able to get a little bit more yardage, especially with really good running backs, because when you're tripping over your offensive linemen the way that they do here in Madden 19, you're going to be able to get a little bit more yardage. That's not going to happen in Madden 20. The gameplay mechanics are going to be slightly different. And so the main point of this one is just to, while you're practicing, keep in mind that the game is going to it's going to play a little bit different. It's going to flow a little bit different. And I think it's going to flow better, and the run game is going to be a little bit more powerful. So while you might get, on a play like that, where you kind of get hit weird and you fall down, I might have gotten 5 yards. In Madden 20, you might get 6 or 7 out of that because you're not going to stumble down to the ground quite as easily. And so the mechanics are different, and they're fixed for Madden 20. And that was just a quick tip there, but the other 4 are really important, and they're things that I think will help you guys quite a bit going into Madden 20. The game will be out in a short time, and I hope that you guys get something out of this video, if it, at least gives you some idea of some things that you might want to do to help practice for Madden 20. If it helped you out in any way, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more as always, and comment down below. Let me know that it helped you out. And if there's anything else that you guys want to see on the channel, please let me know. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next episode or whatever my next video is. I hope you guys have a great night. See you in the next one.